Hello guys and welcome to another video. So today we're in my reading nook because we are ranking every single Percy Jackson ship ever. And when I say Percy Jackson, I mean Percy Jackson, the Olympians, the Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo, Magnus Chase, and the King Chronicles, or at least every single ship I can remember from those. Back when I started my channel, I made a similar video to this 4 years ago already, so go watch that to see how my opinion has evolved. Today, we're focusing on 46 different Percy Jackson related ships, and I'm not planning on holding back. I'm not claiming these are the best ships, I'm claiming these are my favorite ships. And if I roast your favorite ship, then so be it. No holding back today, baby. I am creating controversy. So these are our 46 ships for today. They are in no particular order, and as you can see, I chose both canon ships and non-canon ships because I want to create discourse. I had way too much fun making this. So let's start with our first ship, which happens to be non-canon, and that is Percy and Grover. Percy and Grover are BFF goals, so I don't ship them romantically. I can see the potential, but for me, the relationship is solely platonic, and it's such a strong platonic relationship that I wouldn't want to mess it up with any romantic feelings, and I don't think canonically they've ever felt anything close to romantic feelings for each other. So I'm going to put this one in nah. They're one of my favorite friendship duos. You need to read Chalice of the Gods if you love them together as friends. It's just so good, and every time they interact, I'm like, they're best friends, Your Honor. So for that reason, I cannot ship them romantically, but they are the dynamic duo. Next up, we have Jason and Reyna, our first Jason ship, one of many. What to say about Jason and Reyna? The fan art is surprisingly good, and I'm sure I could find more than one decent fanfic. However, the reality is that this ship was over before it even began. I think it has potential though. Like, if Jason hadn't been exchanged for Percy and Hera hadn't wiped his mind, I think there could have been a potential relationship there. That is, if Reyna can fall in love canonically. I'm going to go into I guess. I think I would have liked seeing this. This would have been more interesting for me than Jason and Piper, but let's not spoil those thoughts. Next up, we have another Jason Gray ship. The most important thing that Jason has going for himself is that he's in a lot of ships. Obviously non-canon ships, but that's what I live for. The correct ships. Oh my god, I forgot to put Brason in here! No! I knew I was missing something. Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Just so you know, if I hadn't forgotten, Jason would be an OTP. But as he is not there, we have Jason and Percy. Interesting relationship they have going on. A large majority of the fandom views them as like bros and like the bro TP. They have very meme-like interactions in fanon. I don't think they're as close friends as the fandom likes to think, just because of the whole issue with the 7 being co-workers, not found family. But they did have some fun interactions in Mark of Athena, which is where they met. I can see like a rivals to lovers kind of thing going on for these two. Like, they're both wanting to be the leader of the 7. There's some tension there, some innate chemistry, and they're both children of the big 2 gods, which as I'm saying it, I'm like, wouldn't that make them cousins? Best not to think about that in this fandom. So I'm going to go into, I guess, both Jason ships are like, yeah, I guess I could see it. Like, obviously, I'm a hardcore Perciveth shipper. This is just for the lols, right? This is just like a crack ship. I'm not gonna actually ship it. But hypothetically, I'm like, I guess this has potential. Like, this does have potential. Let's move on to another ship that looks exactly like the one before, but it's actually Percy and Luke. Yeah, you heard that right. Before we get to the next ship, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at @unclaimeddemigod, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe because it really does help my channel. Let's keep going. Besides the fact that I think this ship is illegal, in most countries, it just doesn't work. I am someone who believes that Percy might have had like the tiniest guy crush on Luke when he first got to camp. He's like, he's so hot, all the girls love him, he's like an older guy, he's kind of being my mentor, he fights so good. So I do think that Percy was like blushing a little bit when he was next to Luke back then, but after that, with all the mess with Annabeth and everything, there is no possible universe where this actually works out. I am putting this in sync. Also, you can barely ship Luke with anyone legally, and that kind of puts a damper on things, not because of the legal part, but because it's disgusting, but also because of the legal part, obviously. And then we have another Reyna ship. Reyna is so iconic, and she just keeps getting shipped with everyone. I think we should do like a poll at the end, like what are the characters that get shipped around the most? I have a feeling it's going to be Percy, Thalia, and maybe Jason, which is interesting because Jason has nothing going for him except for the fact that he's so bland as a character that you can put him in any relationship and you're like, well, I've got no reason to complain because there's like nothing there, so I can't say they wouldn't work. It's just like putting something with white bread, it's white bread, it goes with anything. It just doesn't add anything of substance. So we have Percy and Reyna, a ship that also lasted about 2 seconds in Son of Neptune, and Annabeth felt absolutely not threatened at all by it. This is a ship that does not exist, basically. It's all fan and made because Reyna did see something in Percy. She saw his potential and his power, his charisma. Percy is a force to be reckoned with. Like, even the gods know this. Even Hazel, when she saw him for the first time, she was like, is he a god? So clearly he has an incredible presence, and he would have been an incredibly powerful and important addition to Camp Jupiter. So Reyna was attracted to that power originally. I don't think she could stand Percy. Not that Percy is someone you have to stand, because obviously I love him. I think she needs someone who takes things a little bit more seriously, which we will see later on in another ship that I do ship with Reyna. So for now, I'm gonna go with nah. If we're gonna have to put her with a guy, I'd rather she be with Jason, because as we know, Jason takes things maybe a little bit too seriously at times. Moving on, we have a couple that's been completely cropped, and that is Travis and Katie Gardner. If you didn't know this ship exists, that's okay, because barely anyone knows. In the other video I did of ships, I was like, I don't know who these people are. And to this day, I keep getting comments like, these are Travis and Katie. Like, they're trendy. How do you not know? It's incredible to me, the fact that these two side characters, extremely side characters, because at least Travis is mentioned in basically all the books, and he is featured because he's one of the important campers. Katie is mentioned in like 2 books. She does nothing to impact the plot in those books. So it's incredible to me that these 2 characters have fan fiction dedicated to them. My theory is they are so in the background and their personalities are so underdeveloped because they're not relevant that you can basically self-insert yourself into them and therefore into Camp Half-Blood and Percy's lives. So if you're a girl, you're like, oh, I'll be Katie and I'll date a Stoll brother and I'll be at Camp Half-Blood because I can choose any personality I want for Katie. And if you're a guy, you can do the same thing with Travis. So I think that's what that is. I'm not gonna say sync, but I'm just gonna go into like, I'm gonna go I guess, because I don't have anything against them. Actually, when I wrote fanfiction about myself and my friends with guys from the Percy Jackson universe, one of them was Travis. So I really can't say anything negative about this. Moving on, we have our first Kane Chronicles ship, and that is Carter Kane and Mia? Spoilers for the first book. Maybe, I don't know. She is the girl who is actually an avatar. What do you call these? She was actually not real. Her body wasn't real. She was just in a coma and the body thought she was real. I'm not explaining this correctly. It's confusing. But I just remember Carter being very awkward at first and then the situation in itself being awkward when they actually meet for the first time. So I'm going to go into I guess. I think if I read it again, I would actually like it a lot more than when I first read it because I was just very confused back then. I didn't understand what was going on. I was very young. It has potential. I've forgotten everything about the Kane Chronicles. I'm sorry. Next up, we have one of the most iconic yet controversial ships of the Percy Jackson fandom, and that is Clarisse and Silena. These two are a parallel, a metaphor. They are basically symbolism for Achilles and Patroclus. They have the same story. If you've read book 5, then you know what I'm talking about. Tragic and heartbreaking, but so good. My opinion about these two has changed a lot and evolved over the years, and I have finally reached the conclusion that while I think they would be a very good, interesting ship, I think they work really, really well platonically, and I do think that Silena was wholeheartedly in love with Charles at the time. I do think, however, that Clarisse probably had a crush on Silena, and maybe Silena could see Clarisse as a potential, candidate romantically, but she was interested in Charles first. So I do think there's a lot of chemistry here and a lot of history. So I'm going to go in ship. Can't be OTP anymore just because I don't think it would be reciprocal, but I am so excited for seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5 of our Disney Plus TV show because Dior, the girl who plays Clarisse, said she sees something there. Like, there's definitely something there. Wouldn't it be so cool if they added that as a plot line in the TV show? This is up there right next to me wanting a musical episode for the show. Remember how I called Jason before a white piece of bread? Well, here we have 2 white pieces of bread. Ironically, neither of them is white, but their personality is just so bland and, to me, uninteresting that they're like, when you put both of them together, it's like, God, it puts me to sleep. I'm sorry, I'm one of those persons that when I got to Son of Neptune and it wasn't a Percy chapter, I was like, skip, 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 skip. Obviously, I read it all, but I didn't have a lot of fun doing it. I'm sorry, I think Hazel would be a very interesting character if she hadn't been paired with Frank. Like, both of them are okay by themselves, but together, I'm like, there's no tension, there's no chemistry, there's no anything. I don't like the age gap. I just don't like them together. I shipped them more before, but they've always been my least favorite couple out of the Heroes of Olympus couples. I don't feel it. I'm gonna go nah. I think they could have been so much more interesting as platonic friends, something that we didn't get to explore almost at all in Heroes of Olympus. So I'm gonna go with nah. The most interesting thing they had going for them was in Mark of Athena, where the weird love triangle thing happened. I didn't like it even back then when I read it for the first time, which is saying a lot because I shipped anything that breathed back in those days. I didn't even like it. It was weird. I don't think it was like actual feelings. It was just Leo was horny for literally anyone, and Hazel was projecting, and Frank was jealous even though they literally had just started dating, and they still acted like they'd been dating for months. So it was weird. I'm not gonna sink it because there's not anything inherently wrong with it. Then we have one of my favorite couples, which is Sally Jackson and Paul Blowfish. Obviously, this goes straight into a ship. They're so cute, so good together. Like, Paul makes Sally laugh, smile. She has other adults to interact with, which is nice. It's just such a good ship. And look at them fighting in the last book together. And it'd be fun to see more of them. And I think we might be getting more of them in the future. If you haven't read Challenge of the Gods, they're not paying me to promote this book, I swear, but it's just so good. It has everything that the original had. It's just the nostalgia. Even without the nostalgia, it's incredible. 10 out of 10. Paul Blowfish is just such a fun, loving character. And he's so good with Annabeth as well. Obviously, platonically, like a father-daughter relationship. Don't get me started. Don't. Moving on to another relationship, we have Thalia and Zöe Nightshade, from book 3. Very interesting relationship. Obviously, they would have kind of like a haters to lovers or almost rivals to lovers. It's true, their relationship is not forbidden. It's impossible because they're both hunters and they can't have romantic relationships, not only with men, but at all, which sounds fun. So their relationship is purely hypothetical and based on the fact that they had a history, and it was an intense history. I think they definitely have chemistry. It's a tragic love story. There's no way it's gonna end well just because of the context of their relationship. I think I could ship it. Am I gonna ship this or am I gonna put this in, I guess? I feel like it's a bit disrespectful to the other ships to put this and I ship it. And just because they're canonically both like Arrow Ace, I believe. So I'm just gonna put it in, I guess, just to respect them and their identities. It'd be a fun ship, I think. That is, of course, followed by another Thalia ship because Thalia is just the it girl that you can ship with anyone. She just has that kind of personality. So here we have Thalia and Reyna. I know what I said, but I'm gonna put them in ship. I think they have something going on. I don't know what, but there's definitely something. I don't know if they're platonic soulmates, but they're definitely soulmates of some kind. I really want to get a novella, a bind-up of the hunt and the hunters of Artemis, just whatever they do doing? I want to know. I think that would be very interesting, like them talking about Percy. They've both been leaders, but in very different ways. They have a lot in common, but also a lot of differences. So I think they would just work really, really well as a team. If I had to like do battles between duos, this would be one of the strongest duos out there. So yeah, I ship it. Sue me. Then we have another Thalia ship, and when I saw this, I thought, these two characters have never interacted, but it turns out they have. I had to think back to The Lost Hero because spoilers for The Lost Hero. Thalia is Jason's brother, a fact that I often forget. I'm just quite happy that I didn't see any fan art of Thalia and Jason together because gross. So Thalia and Piper do know each other. I don't think they've ever interacted besides that. I'm gonna put this in I guess because there's no content, and I know I ship things with little to no content, but this is literally 0.1 amount of content. So I don't think I can be invested in the ship, and I need to be invested in ships because I'm a hardcore shipper. So if I'm not invested, it means it's not a really appealing ship. That's not to say I don't see the potential in this ship. I think they could be very good together. Thalia is clearly the prettier, smarter, and more interesting sibling of the Grace siblings. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Piper clearly loves powerful characters, so I could see them together. They could work, and I think they would be a very powerful duo as well aesthetically. They look great together, so I'm not complaining if you ship them. I am complaining, however, if you ship the following ship. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this, Thalia and Annabeth. So they met when Thalia was 11 maybe, and Annabeth was 7, I think. So it's weird age difference. I think Thalia was even like 12. So she was a teenager and Annabeth was a child. She took care of Annabeth like her mother, her big sister. And then, spoilers for book 1, I guess, Thalia died. She became a tree, which then stunted her growth until she came back, or did she? I mean, everyone knows this, in book 2. So when she comes back in book 2, Apollo then claims she's probably like 14 or 15 years old, meaning that she's only a year or 2 at most older than Annabeth. And then you're like, okay, then it's not weird, but the fact is that Annabeth grew up with Thalia being older than her. That's the dynamic that was the basis of their relationship. It's weird, I just can't get behind it, so I'm gonna go with nah. It's not illegal like Luke's would be, because she was like put on stop in time. Thalia is emotionally the same age as Annabeth is. Still, with their history, I cannot ship it. It's weird. If they had met for the first time at the end of book 2, I could actually see that. If they didn't have the history that they had, I think Annabeth and Thalia could work just because Annabeth's own words, Thalia and Percy are very similar. So if Percy works with Annabeth, why wouldn't Thalia? That's the reasoning. Moving on to another Thalia ship, because I told you before, there are many, and that is Percy and Thalia. Thursey, Palia, Plia, I don't know. I don't know half of these ship names. So this one is also going into nah. I know what I claimed before. I don't think they would work together romantically at all. Their temperaments are too similar. They're both too impulsive. They always want to sacrifice themselves for everyone else. They wouldn't work out, and they would get too mad at each other. No, they don't have the patience to be with each other. So I'm gonna say no. Clearly only platonic vibes between these two besties. I'm sorry, I just don't see it at all. And yet another Thalia ship, one of the worst Thalia ships, Thalia and Luke Castellan. I think Rick pronounced it Castellan the other day, and I felt so cheated because I think I've been pronouncing it Castellan for all my life. So I'm just gonna stick with the original pronunciation as I do for Thalia because that's how I pronounce it in Spanish. I don't care if it's Thalia. I hate Thalia, but I love Thalia. So what to say about this ship? Now this ship is legal and then it turns illegal in book 2 when Thalia comes out because she's about to turn 16 in book 3, and I think by book 3 Luke is like 19 or 20. However, just like with Annabeth and Thalia, I think this ship chemistry wise definitely has potential. Before the thing that killed Thalia happened, I think they could have been a good ship. Like, they were both on the run, taking care of Annabeth, taking care of monsters. They're both leaders, they're both fighters, they're both really intense people, so I think they could have worked really well. Imagine a Camp Half-Blood where Thalia hadn't died and she had just grown up with Annabeth and Luke. I think they would have definitely been dating, and maybe Thalia would have turned evil. But I think they would have a very good dynamic, like good cop, bad cop. The good cop being Luke here, you know, when he's pretending he's like nice and a people person. So I think it would definitely be an interesting relationship to explore had the death of Thalia not happened. But I'm still gonna put it in nah. I see the potential. In this universe, it's impossible, so I'm gonna go with no, thank you, call the cops. And then we're moving on to everyone's favorite ship to love or hate. In my case, extremely dislike, and that is Leo and Calypso. I have to expose myself a little here. When I was younger, when I first read the Heroes of Olympus, I was a huge Perceval fan. So I couldn't ship myself with Percy because Percy went with Annabeth, obviously. But then I read The Lost Hero and I was like, well, Leo, I can see the appeal. So then I fell in love with Leo Valdez, as all teenagers girls do, I believe. And I was obsessed with him. And when the thing happened in House of Hades, I was mad, but at the same time, there was such good fan art that I was like, I kind of ship this as well. I don't know. I ship Leo with me, but this is an interesting haters to lovers dynamic. So I'm a sucker for that as well. I don't know what to feel. But then Blood of Olympus came out and then I hated Leo. I didn't hate him. Okay. I didn't hate him. It wasn't that bad, but I was really angry at him for what he did and the way he left things. You can't swear anything on the River Styx. Spoilers, you can't make your friends believe that you're dead just to go get a girl you've known for a week. Yeah, it was important, but let your best friends know that you're alive, you jerk. That's right, I would have been in the punch Leo line when he came back to Camp Half-Blood during Trials of Apollo. I would have punched him right in the gut. So while in 2014, when I first read it, I was like, yo, this has potential. Now I'm like, well, Leo was 15 and Calypso was eternal. So I don't know if I can ship her with anyone. The one thing that makes it not so weird is that she was shielded away from the rest of the world. She didn't necessarily grow. She was in like a stasis. She was there, frozen in time. So she doesn't necessarily perceive herself as immortal, just atemporal. I don't like it. It's weird. I don't like the age difference. I don't like the way the ship was executed in the Trials of Apollo. If you've read that, it was messy. I don't think they're right for each other. So I'm just gonna put it in sync. I have a whole ass video talking about Calypso and Leo, so go watch that. It was intense. It was an intense discussion. Moving on to happier, lovelier ships, we have Silena and Charlie, or Charles Beckendorf. This is such a cute ship. It definitely has to go in I ship it. When you read the main series, you're like, yeah, they're cute, they're tragic, but I think the real Silena and Charlie stuff kicks in the Demigod Files. The story with the Bronze Dragon, I think that story was really sweet for both ships, and I love seeing the parallels between them. They're sweet, they're like the basic straight couple ship, following this lovely couple that I think basically no one can say isn't a good or neutral ship. We have a terrible ship, and that is a completely non-canon ship between Rachel and Octavian. A lot of people like this because of their similarities. Obviously, they're both oracles, or they claim to be, but that's where the similarities end. They're completely different. They have no redeeming qualities as a couple. So this is going straight into sync. I don't like Octavian, but I wouldn't be opposed to him having a love interest, hypothetically, because you know what happens in Blood of Olympus. But I don't think Rachel is the one for him at all. Rachel has a fiery personality. She doesn't need a dictator as a boyfriend, especially that anemic loser. Moving on to another very controversial relationship, and that is Nico D'Angelo and Jason Grace. Now there's a lot we could say about this ship. Obviously this starts in House of Hades because something is exposed about Nico, and then he shares the secret with Jason Grace, and they create a bond from that literal trauma. And then later on, Jason is the only one from the seven who is looking out for Nico, obviously besides Hazel, his half-sibling. I'm not entirely sure what their ages are when they meet, but I think it's safe to say it's probably like 14, 16. So the age difference isn't that weird. It's not my favorite, but it's not that weird. I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite when I talk about Percy and Nico later on because I think they're the same age. But I think Jason is younger than Percy. Heroes of Olympus ages are so confusing. I think Nico and Jason as a ship is one of the most prominent ships in the Percy Jackson fandom, but I don't ship it at all. Like, I see where you're coming from, but it's hard for me to ship anyone in the big three together. It's weird, and I think these two have such a good platonic relationship. Like, they are literally siblings. Jason was such a good person to Nico. Like, their relationship is so pure that romantic feelings have nothing to do with it. So I'm not gonna mix those up, and this one is going into nah. Like, I don't hate it. What they have going on is so much better than anything they could have going on romantically that I'm just gonna go with no. And I think Nico deserves someone better than Jason. Even though Jason with Nico is probably one of the best versions of Jason that there are. Besides Jason in the Burning Maze, which is top tier Jason. And I don't mean that in a bad way. You might think I mean that in a bad way because I don't like him, but I honestly think that's the worst version of his personality that we've ever gotten. I actually genuinely liked his character there before that happened. I thought I had something double here, and that is another Jason and Reyna. That's going into I guess, because the other one went I guess there. I just saw the other one, I was like, oh, well, Birch Bug, obviously have to choose that fan art over the other one. Because if you know me, I will choose Birch Bug over literally any other fan artist any day of the week. And if not Birch, then Viria. I'm so loyal to those two women. I don't think I've ever been that loyal to anything else in my life, but to those fan artists, I'm like, I will follow you into Tartarus if you keep giving me more fan art. Please and thank you. Oh, then we have Coach Hedge and Mellie, I believe her name is. They actually, spoilers for Blood of Olympus, have a kid together, and it's a cloud spirit. Do I ship them necessarily? No, I don't go out of my way to look at fan art, much less fan fiction. Are they a cute ship? I guess. So it's just gonna have to go in, I guess, because it was completely irrelevant and just a way to get Coach Hedge off the Argo 2 and back at Camp Half-Blood. I guess basically sums it up pretty well. Like, I have nothing against it, but it's just there. And it's the first, I guess, ship that's canon. No, it's not. I'm lying. No, it's not. Then we have Chris Rodriguez and Clarisse LaRue. I know that Clarisse is already in the ship tier with Silena. So this definitely goes into I guess, because this truly came out of nowhere. I don't know what Rick was thinking when he was like, oh, Chris Rodriguez? He came out of the labyrinth, he's crazy, and you know who's nursing him back to health? Clarisse. Oh, Clarisse, you know, that person who is hated by every single camper at camp, who we've seen not being bullied, but being really mistreated by even the campers in her own cabin. Literally, no one likes Clarisse. And we've seen this, no one ever defends Clarisse, no one ever will step up for Clarisse and go on the quest with her. We know this is canon. But then, suddenly, in book 4, no, we need Clarisse to be relevant again, so she'll just have like a secret boyfriend, she'll have a secret crush on this kid that we've never seen before. You could argue that Clarisse was crushing on him, and I could understand that. And then by nursing him back to health, he was like, well, maybe I'm crushing on you too, because you helped me and you showed me your softer side. That could be argued, but I still think it came out of nowhere. So yeah, it's just going into I guess. I think this could be done much better in the TV show, so I'm just looking forward to that. Please give us a more decent plot line. Chris has already been cast and he's already been in the show, like he's the BFF that Luke had around him all the time. Maybe in season 2 we could see a little bit more of that if Chris hasn't already left for Princess Andromeda. I don't have very high hopes because I don't care about the ship. Then we have another controversial ship between a young girl and an immortal god. Don't you just love to see that? We have Sadie Kane and Anubis, I believe. He is the god of death. One of them. He's definitely in the Egyptian underworld. He's like a jackal. Aesthetically, I have to say, I love this. Like, they are so cute. And this fan art is just give it? Blonde girl with guy who has dark hair and like honestly like a dark aesthetic. It's a vibe. Like, I'm weak. I'm not gonna say it's not great aesthetically. I'm just gonna say that Sadie canonically I think is 13 at the beginning of the series when she meets him, and he is an immortal god, as I said. So it's a bit weird, not to say completely weird. So I'm just gonna go into sync. This kind of hurts me because I do think they had chemistry. I'm gonna put it in I can't be such a hypocrite between Calypso and Leo and then these two. Would we argue that immortals don't age emotionally? Because we can see Zeus, he doesn't feel like a being that's been alive for thousands of years. He just feels like a very salty middle-aged man. I have to put it in sync just because of the age difference, but if it wasn't for that, if somehow the god had become human at the end, is that what happens? I'm so confused, right? I don't remember the ending of the Kane Chronicles, but something definitely happens. Spoilers for the Kane Chronicles. What I remember is that Walt, the other love interest, is dying, so he then becomes the body for Anubis. Is that what happens? Because that's very messed up. I'm not sure. I think they had good chemistry. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I'm clearly showing that I don't remember anything about the King Chronicles, and that's not a good look on me. Then we have the other ship that I was talking about before. We have Leo and Hazel. And as I said before, this was confusing. It was weird, like, were the feelings real for either of them? I don't think so. I think just Leo would literally hit anything that paid attention to him for half a second, and Hazel was just seeing his, what was it, like great-grandfather? So it's just going to go into straight up nah. I didn't like it. It created some tension, but I didn't actually need the tension. I would have really liked to see Leo incorporate himself into that friend group, like platonically. Overall, platonic relationships is what I want now from Heroes of Olympus. Obviously that's not the case, but it's what I would have liked to see. Not at the time though. At the time, 14-year-old me was like, yes, give me all the relationship drama, because as you know, every single person finds their soulmate at 15 years old. So that's what I wanted to see. And that's what Rick led me to believe, which is in fact not true. You've heard it here first. But now we have another ship that I think does have great potential. We have Annabeth, and is this, wait. Yes, Annabeth and Reyna. I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite, but that's just the way it is with ships, you know? There's really not that much logic behind them, it's just vibes. So that's what I'm basing all of these off of. I ship Annabeth and Reyna. Obviously not really, because I only ship Annabeth with Percy. That's me. I'm the most hardcore Percy shipper out there. I have been for literally over 10 years, 12 years to be exact. I've read so many books and I've read them so many times. And now I watched the show and I watched a couple of movies. I hate to say it. And I listen to the musical on a daily basis. So yes, I'm crazy. I'm insane. I ship them so hard. I have a whole video reacting to their scenes in the show. So yeah, I'm a big Percy shipper, but that doesn't mean that I can ship crack ships. Like, I can see their potential, and Annabeth and Reyna definitely had potential in that half scene that they interacted in the Mark of Athena. They're both smart women who have had to grow up before they should have had to grow up. They lived very sheltered lives for most of their lives and then were thrown into complete chaos. And they both have to provide for their camps despite the fact that they don't have any visible powers. They have their brains and their skills, and that's it. You know, Reyna later on, but whatever. So yeah, I think they could work very well. I think that they would be a badass duo. Do I love them more as BFFs? Yes, we're never gonna get that, but I would love to see that. I do think they have a lot of potential, so yes, I ship it. Sue me. So far, there are only 2 canon ships in ship and no OTPs. I hadn't noticed that. Oh my god. Speaking of OTPs, we have everyone's favorite couple from Olympus, and that is Zeus and Hera. I think even they would agree with this sorting. Yeah, they suck individually, but also as a couple, like as a mom-dad duo, you can ask anyone from Hercules to Jason and Thalia. So I'm just gonna go straight into saying, oh, you could also ask Hephaestus. So everyone agrees that they suck individually, but even more so when put together. They just don't work, and I wouldn't ship them with anybody else either. They shouldn't be allowed to have romantic or any other kind of relationship, because I know, I was speaking about Leo before, like he would hit anything that breathes, that looks at him for half a second, but that's even more true for Zeus. And even worse, because Zeus doesn't ask or wait for consent. They're both canceled because they suck. Moving on to another random ship that I just found here, Leo and Frank. I didn't know this was a thing, but I should have known this was a thing. Like, when you're in a love triangle, you should expect the arrows to go every single direction. However, this is going into, wait, no. Oh. I fully expected myself to put them in nap, but now that I think about it, Leo's fiery personality could combine well with Frank's more reserved one, and they both have a lot of power, so they're definitely very powerful together. Why wouldn't I put him with Hazel there? I just think it'd be more interesting because they have more tension going on. You know, they're fighting over Hazel, and then they look deeply into each other's eyes as they get closer in the argument, and they're like, they start looking at each other's lips, and they're like, oh, maybe I don't hate you because you like Hazel. Maybe I hate you because you're with Hazel and you should really be with me. That's what should happen. That's what should have happened. I'm calling it right here. Literally never thought about these two together, but now I guess they could work. Which leads us to another terrible ship, and that is Luke and Annabeth. Yeah, this would just be grooming, because unlike Thalia, Luke isn't frozen in time. He actually grows up with Annabeth, and when she is 12, he is definitely like at 17 or 18, which is very, very weird. He has grown up with her. He calls her a little sister in the show. Annabeth does have a crush on him in the books. I don't think she does in the show, from what I've seen. But it could never work. It should never work. And I think they should take all of that out from the show, like the Luke kind of reciprocating or asking Annabeth if she still loved him. But I do think that Annabeth having a crush on him still works in the show, because that's gonna add a lot of tension between Percy and Annabeth later on, which is, you know, really not needed, because you could still have that tension with Annabeth just hoping that Luke is still good platonically and, you know, as the little sister. So really, yeah, you don't actually need it. So yeah, sink. I don't have anything else to say about this. Just notice that my private figurine is right there. He's gonna stay there. It's his place of honor. Another ship that I don't like, I don't get at all, is Tyson and Ella. I liked Ella when we first met her because I liked the name Ella, so that was enough for me at 14. I've always liked Tyson. He's so cute. He's such a good brother to Percy. He's just such a good character overall, not because he's well written, but because he's so good as a person, so pure. He makes you want to protect him. However, he has the brain of a child, and so does Ella, basically, so it's weird. And I don't ship monsters together, like a Cyclops and a Harpy, like, So yeah, I just can't see it. It's going to go in nap. It's nothing too weird, but they've always given me the ick. And if they get to Heroes of Olympus, I hope that's something that they can take away, because it's completely unnecessary. Who looks at Tyson and is like, you know what he's missing? A love interest. No, he's missing hugs and platonic kisses on the cheeks, which leads us to Poseidon and Sally Jackson. This one goes into, do I have to ship it? Because obviously I love Percy and I have to ship this in order for Percy to become a reality. It's just going into, now it's going into nap, because while I love what they had and it's very special, I don't ship them together aside from the one summer they had together. Like, that one summer was great. Is it impossible for Percy to have been conceived in the summer and then been born in August? Yes, it is. However, that summer was great. I think they had a cute little relationship, and I do believe that Poseidon really, really likes Sally above all other mortal women that he's met, and maybe even his wife. Like, she is a goddess among women. However, as things are now, I really like Sally and Paul much better than Sally and Poseidon now. Like, Sally and Poseidon, in that bubble of time, they worked. They were good together. But now, 2024, Sally with Paul all the way. Moving on to our first ship from Magnus Chase, and we have Magnus himself with Alex. While I was typing, the first thing that comes up, you're looking Magnus and Al. Obviously, it's Magnus and Alec from the Mortal Instruments. I don't understand why Rick did this to us. He knew it was gonna be impossible, basically, to have a ship name or to find anything because people would confuse the two ships. But there they are, and they're going into OTP. Yes, they're the first ones there, and they deserve to be because they are truly iconic. They are Percabeth, but in like another universe, another font. Like the basis is there. It's different, obviously. I would say the dynamic is pretty similar. This one is not haters to lovers, just because Magnus never hated Alex. Alex is just a very confrontational person. She didn't want to have anything with Magnus, so she's like very off-putting, but at the same time, Alex is incredible. So I'm just gonna go with OTP because they're so cute, and if we could get a novella from them, then I wouldn't say no. This ship is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why I want to reread Magnus Chase. It's so cute. It's a ship that has a lot of edges, but at the same time, they have such pure sunshine moments when they're both very cold. That scene, oh my god. And Magnus is just such a cute sunshine boy that I love. He has a crush on this other guy, and when they kiss for the first time, he's like, well, it just occurred to me that Alex was a guy. And it occurred to me as well that I didn't care because I was kissing Alex. What an icon! So it can't not be an OTP. I'm sorry, fight me. I will fight for their rights. Let me know down below how much I should reread this series. Next up, we have another Piper ship and another Annabeth ship. That's right, that's Piperbeth. Probably one of the most important ships in this fandom that are non-canon. I said what I said. Just like with Reyna, I think there's a lot of possibilities here. Do I like them as a platonic duo? Yes, I do. Annabeth deserves to have A, friends, and B, female friends, because they're in short supply. I think they would work really well together. They're just so cute. Like, their aesthetic also really works together. I don't think I even have to explain this one. Annabeth makes Piper a more interesting character. I think I like this one a little bit more than Annabeth and Reyna. Piper is more similar to Percy in attitude, so I think they would just vibe more just because Annabeth and Reyna are more similar and I like opposites better, so I think that would really work. On the other hand, I don't ship Piper and Percy at all. I think they would have like a romance type of thing, and I don't think that could ever be romantic between them. I think both of them would be in love with Annabeth, that I do believe. Anything between those two, I don't think. They're like magnets, they repel each other. Not in a bad way, just in like the most romantic, platonic way possible. Is romantic a word? Well, it is now. And that is followed by Percy and Calypso, which goes straight. How much do I hate it? How much do I hate it? Over the years, I have chilled a little bit, so it's going to go in nah. I hate it even more than Percy and Rachel, I think, just because Percy actually considered staying there with her in Ogygia. I believe that it's just because he could let go of his responsibilities. She was giving him an easy way out. I don't think it was actually anything to do with Calypso, because her personality, while Percy was there, was just being nice and taking care of him. And I'm never going to ship that because that is so boring. Do I read and enjoy fanfics where someone is sick or hurt and someone has to take care of them? Yes, I do. But I don't enjoy it if that person is basically their mother. So I can't say that I've ever shipped this or that I ever will. I will say that I've chilled, and if you don't think this is chill, you should have seen me when I first read this in 2012. I hated Calypso for what she did, but I mean, Rachel was more of like a splinter, and this is like a whole tree in Percabeth's. I don't know, the metaphor got away from me. One thing I will say is when season 4 comes out, you should not send any hate at all to whatever girl gets to be Calypso in the show. Maybe they'll do it better. I have a feeling I won't like her character either, just because of what she represents. Percy's doubts and his want to just have a normal, quiet life where he doesn't have to save the world. You should not send hate to anyone just because you don't like their character. And you shouldn't just hate on a character just because you don't like that they get shipped with another character. That makes me sound like a hypocrite, but I don't hate her character. I just don't like her with Percy at all. Like, she's fine by herself. There's really not that much of her for me to really hate her or anything. So by herself, I'm like, yeah, she's a cool girl. She has magic. She did side with the Titans. You know, it was her dad, blah, blah, blah. A lot could be said about Calypso by herself. Calypso and Percy, I'm a non-believer. And moving on to our first and only throuple, I just decided to throw this in here because if you look at Annabeth and Grover, there's nothing for them, at least fan art wise, that has them romantically. So I was like, all of these are just Percy, Annabeth, and Grover as a threesome. I'm gonna put it here. And I just put it here to say, nah, honestly, I don't think they could work as a romantic trio. They work so well as a romantic duo plus Grover. Like, he is the best third wheel probably in all literature history, and he does it so well because he has a great relationship with both Annabeth and Percy. It doesn't feel like he's getting left behind or excluded from things. I think Percy and Annabeth genuinely really enjoy hanging out, the three of them, and they're not like, could you give us some space to just be us? It just happens so naturally for them. It's so good. We're almost getting to our final 10, and now we have Sadie and Walt. That's the other ship that Sadie Kane has in the King Chronicles. I'm just going to put this one in, I guess, because they don't have that big of an age difference. I don't know. I don't remember anything. I think he's definitely older than her, but not like an eternal god kind of older. I don't think that they had as much chemistry as she did with the other one, but this one isn't illegal, so it has that going for it. I do want to reread it and see my thoughts on this ship because I think I would go for Anubis just because the aesthetic is so good. Spoilers for the King Chronicles, Walt is dying, right? I haven't made that up. He's dying? Poor guy, because I do remember that he was like a generally nice guy. Moving on, we have Jason. Is that right? Please tell me I didn't download 3 separate pieces of fan art for Jason and Reyna, a ship that I don't even ship. There's 3 different pieces of fan art. So I just reduced this from 46 ships to 43 because 3 of those are Jason and Reyna. This is insane. I'm sorry, my mind was just like, well, that's pretty fan art. Let me just keep on downloading it. Out of all the ships that I could have doubled, I had 3 Persevet fan arts, but I was like, no, I have to remember only to put 1. But, you know, Jason and Reyna just won out. I feel like they're trying to tell me something. They're trying to tell me that I should ship them, but I won't. Won't I? Maybe. I think they're convincing me. I'm gonna ship it just because they have been pestering me. I feel like it's the universe telling me to give them a chance. I will, just because they have very cute fan art, so that is always compelling evidence to me. Moving on to another Jason ship that only has 1 piece of fan art here is Jason and Piper. Whoop whoop. When I first read The Lost Hero, I was desperate for any kind of ship content because for obvious reasons, Persevet wasn't a thing. So I was like, I clung onto Jason and Piper. I was like, wow, such an interesting relationship. And it really is. Like the concept of him having amnesia and her remembering a relationship, which then later on we learn never happened. It was all in her head. It's very interesting, and seeing how their relationship develops from fake feelings to real feelings. I just don't think it was executed correctly. If you have read Trials of Apollo, that's spoilers for that. Their relationship doesn't end well, and to me that makes sense because of the basis of their relationship being fake memories and fake feelings most of all. While I think their relationship is very interesting, and while I loved it way back when, and he does have a great aesthetic and great fan art, I'm just gonna go in nah. I appreciate it for what it was. It did what it needed to do. That's it. I don't need more. I would never seek out these 2. Just when you thought that we weren't getting any more OTPs until we got Persevet, we have Solangelo, one of the few ship names that I know because they are the best. Will Solis and Nico D'Angelo. Obviously, it goes straight into OTP, and as you will see later on, my OTPs are basically the same ship in different fonts because look at those 2 right now. Try to tell me that this isn't the same picture. It's the same picture. I didn't choose those specific fan arts on purpose to do that meme, but oh my god. What can I say about Solangelo? There's a lot of Solangelo haters just because they claim that it came out of nowhere, there was no development. That could be said for literally any other ship that's not Persevet, because you know what? They're side characters. We don't see them that much. Juniper literally came out of nowhere in book 4. She was like, oh, she's Grover's girlfriend. I don't see anyone complaining about that because obviously these characters have lives that we don't get to see because Percy is just there for the summer. So if they stay at Camp Half-Blood for the whole year, relationships and dynamics are going to change and evolve because it's a year together. So obviously Solangelo starts at the end of Blood of Olympus and there's like a spark there, and that's all you need. And then at the first book of Trials of Apollo, they've already started dating. And when that book first came out, people were like, oh my god, it came out of nowhere. What did you want? Did you want their relationship to develop through the Trials of Apollo, a book series not even focused on them? Like, no, I'd rather have them already be dating. And that's something I don't often say. I do like the slow burn, and this ship is slow burn. We just don't see it happen. It's not about them. They're side characters. They're not in the spotlight as much, so obviously they don't have time to develop every single thing. This isn't the Heroes of Olympus. These characters are not getting POVs of their romantic relationship and its development. We need for it to happen quickly because we need to get to the important stuff immediately. So I will always be a Solangelo defender. If you're like, oh, we didn't get to see anything, there's no development, read The Sun and the Star, because I think that fixes everything. We get a clear timeline of their relationship and its development, and it's not rushed. It's just not seen. I will defend Solangelo till my dying breath. Will Solace is what Nico deserves. He represents everything good and bright and light in the world, and he just deserves someone who can make him happy. Obviously, he's not a happy-go-lucky kid. He has lived through 2 main wars, so Will also understands that heavy burden that Nico carries. He helps him be happier and more himself and actually understand more of himself because, you know, Nico hasn't been able to explore a lot of aspects of his personality ever since the Titan's Curse. So Will is nothing but good to Nico, and Nico is also so good to Will. They bring out the best in each other. Aesthetically, they are basically perfect because night and day, it doesn't get any better than that. You know, I love a blonde with someone with dark hair, as you will see from my 3 OTPs. The fact that Nico only brings a sword into Tartarus in The Sun and the Star, and that Will brings everything except a weapon into Tartarus in The Sun and the Star. Like, what else do you need for an OTP? That's basically all you need to know. I could ramble about them forever, but I could also ramble about this next ship forever, so let's get into it now. We have Percy and Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Rachel Elizabeth Dare just has one of those names that I always feel compelled to say the whole thing for some reason. She's never just Rachel, she's Rachel Elizabeth Dare. And this is going into sync. Is it? Am I gonna put this into sync or into nah? I don't like it at all as a ship. It did what it needed to do. It served as a foil for Percabeth in book 4 and most of book 5, though much less. It also gave Percy human mortal friends outside of Camp Half-Blood. It gave him the opportunity to see that there was more to life and that he could actually, you know, log out of the hero mentality for a couple of months and just be chill and a teenager. Do I wish he'd done that with Annabeth? Yes, but Annabeth couldn't give that to him because she was too tied to Luke and therefore the war. I feel like Rachel only appealed to Percy romantically because she didn't have any strings attached to the war. So she was a much easier and simpler option to Annabeth, who came with so much baggage and so many strings attached that he had such a hard time detangling all the feelings there between them two. But Rachel, she was straightforward. She was there. They were friends, they had like a really cool dynamic, they had fun, and they represented a world that each other wanted to live in. Rachel represented normality to Percy, and Percy represented epicness to Rachel. She wanted to go on quests, she wanted magic, she wanted Greek mythology to be part of her life, so she was drawn to him because he was the gateway into that world. And Rachel was normality for Percy. As I said, she was a chill life that he could have had. That's what they were to each other. And, you know, it's important that they could find comfort in each other in that way. Do I ship it romantically? No, I do not. Do I want people to hate on Rachel as soon as she comes up in the Titan's Curse? Also, no, I don't, because Rachel, it's not her fault. They both had very strong feelings toward each other, but it wasn't because of each other, it's because of what they represented for each other. I will die on that hill. The difference between Percy and Annabeth and Percy and Rachel is that I believe that Percy and Annabeth would have liked each other despite the war not going on, like they would have sailed so smoothly. But I don't think Rachel and Percy would have been that drawn to each other had it not been for this very specific setting of them wanting to be part of each other's worlds. I do think their relationship is very cute, like platonically, and I wish we could see more from that, because from book 5 onwards, it's like Percy forgot that Rachel existed. He never mentioned her again. So in the second book of Chalice of the Gods, in the triple-faced goddess or whatever that's called, I do hope that we get maybe a Rachel cameo, because she's in New York, she's in the area. I think that would be really fun. And to see her relationship now with both Annabeth and Percy, I think that could work. So please, Rick, if we don't get that for book 2, let us have that for book 3. Which is then followed by Flintstone and the gay dwarf and gay elf. So that's all we need to know. I shipped this. I didn't know if this was actually canon while I was reading the books. I knew it was very popular with the fandom, but it was so subtle. I didn't know if Rick would actually go through with it. I think it's been confirmed as canon, so I do like them. They're very cute and they're actually really well developed. Do I remember anything? No, but I remember that they had a cool relationship. They're definitely Magnus's dad, so I couldn't have them not be up there. It's been 45 years and I'm still ranking Percy Jackson ships. Stay with me, guys. We only have 5 left. Oh my god, I have Solangelo on here. Try still. Ah! What's wrong with me? Can it be you? So next up we have Percy and Nico. I think they're called Pernico or Perico. I think it's Perico. And this is going straight into sync. I don't like it at all. Yes, it's clear that Nico had feelings for Percy in the past during the first 5 books, but I don't think he has them anymore. So to this day, I don't think they would work at all, because neither of them like each other romantically. Their platonic relationship is spotty at best. I don't think Percy has recovered from the betrayal of book 5, and Nico hasn't recovered yet from all the trauma, all the Percy related trauma. Like, there's a lot of history between them, Bianca related, just romantic feelings related, and I don't think they could work very well. So yeah, it definitely goes into sync. And also, I don't like the age difference. It changes with every book because Rick has never been able to decide what age he wants Nico to be, due to the fact that Percy has always seen Nico as a little kid, and that there's so much guilt in their relationship. I don't think it could work romantically. I hope that they work on it platonically and that they could be friends, but honestly, I don't think they are friends. I think they care a lot for each other and they mean a lot for each other. I don't think they go out of their way to hang out. I just feel like there's a lot of love there, but a lot of confusion and guilt that hasn't been resolved, honestly. And here we have Percy. Obviously, this goes straight into OTP, and it's going to be the first one, followed by Solangelo, followed by other Solangelo. Just have a sandwich of Solangelos with a little bit of Alex in the middle. Literally all my OTPs in the Reyna are the same picture. Do I have to say anything about Percabeth? I feel like if you've followed my channel for X amount of time, you know that I ship them. They mean so much to me. They were the first ship that I read that I was like, this is changing my life. They are so cute together. I love them. The bickering, the development, there's just so much love between them. I love them. Anytime we've seen them, I've been like, yes, yes, give me more. I do think that Percabeth is one of the best ships ever in fiction. I can't wait to get more in the show and to finally get an hour-long compilation of Percabeth moments. It's what we deserve and it's what they deserve, and I can't wait to see them interact more in the triple goddess, the triple-faced goddess, I don't know, the three-faced goddess, what's her name? In the second book in the Chalice of the Gods trilogy / the Percy Jackson the Olympian series number 7. It's confusing. Go watch my guide as to how to read the Reyna in order. So that leaves us with 2 ships, one canon and one non-canon. The first one we have is Juniper and Grover, which I'm gonna put in I ship it. It would go into I guess, but I think it's good for Grover. I just think it's completely irrelevant. Does Grover need a girlfriend? I mean, does anyone need a girlfriend? There's no tension, so it's one of those ships like I ship it because it's cute, but I don't have a lot of feelings toward it. I need there to be tension in a ship, like good tension. Please don't have them actually hate each other, but there has to be tension. There has to be a little bit of conflict. I love rivals or enemies or haters to lovers. When they actually love each other, when they actually hate each other, it's like, no, this is just toxic. But no, this is good. I just think like, yeah, it came out of nowhere. but it's cute. We don't see that much of them interacting. And I would love to see a double date between them and Percy. Like, maybe that could happen in the next book. And finally, we have our final ship, Leo and Nico. If I had been aware of this ship when I first read the book, I would have been all over it. But I wasn't until a couple of years ago, and I was already too far into Solangelo to actually ship this. If Solangelo didn't exist, I would ship this so freaking hard. Like, the aesthetic, the bickering element, the self-loathing that they both have for themselves is just too good. Like, I don't think this would work really well as a romantic pairing because they both hated each other so much when they met. They both saw themselves as the outcast. Like, Nico was always the outcast in Camp Half-Blood, and Leo was the seventh wheel of the Argo too. It would have been so chaotic. And with Leo having had a crush on Hazel, Hazel being like a sibling to Nico, a half sibling at least, it would have been messy, but don't tell me it wouldn't have been fun. Leo is like the sun on the outside, but he's actually so dark and there's so much self-loathing on the inside. And Nico is like, he's a moon, so he could still represent those things. Like, they could still be night and day, they could still be grumpy ex-sunshine, but with so much hidden depth and with so much nuance. This is making me want to look at more fan art because their aesthetic is just so good together. I feel like they would roast each other so much. It would just be great, and they would both roast Percy. And honestly, what else do we want in life? This is making me want to read Leo and Nico fanfiction. I think it could work, guys. I think it could work. I think that's gonna have to be all for this video. This is our final ranking. I think I agree with it still. I can't believe there were 2 Solangelos on there, and not 1 and not 2, but 3 ships of Jason and Reyna on there. Really? That was 2 ships too many. Please leave a like if you like this video and let me know down below if you agree or disagree with my ranking. Just so you know, I am the one with the YouTube channel, so mine is the official ranking and your opinion is completely irrelevant. So go ham in the comments because this is the official ranking. Like, you can't tell me otherwise. This is official. Call Rick Riordan. I don't care what you do with this. This is the truth, and everything else is just tonterías. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this every single Friday, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye!